Well, good afternoon. I'm Jorge Campos González, researcher in Pathways project. In this presentation, I'm just to focus in one particular question: how can the EU livestock meet sustainability and welfare expectations without losing competitiveness? And what evidence from our 4 projects can be seen as a practical policy action? So in this regard, my angle is more about the economics as the connection, as the bridge between policy ambition and real-world adoption, because sometimes if changes don't pay for farmers, or if consumers don't trust the claim, well, probably these changes, they won't scale. So I want to frame this challenge by showing what these sister projects can add. Well, in Brussels, there is a new emphasis on competitiveness and simplification alongside sustainability as well. The livestock work stream, the upcoming livestock strategy create a window to align incentives, reduce burden, and still deliver credible outcomes on environment and welfare. So the economic challenge, as you can see in this slide, can be represented as a 3-way trade-off. We have from farm margin and risk, environmental performance, and also social acceptance, particularly animal welfare and transparency. So the idea is to move toward win-wins areas and avoiding a classical discussion like extensive versus intensive system, for example, because sometimes we have some policy issues or policy problem when one corner, for example, in this triangle is optimized at the expense of the others, so leading to bad reaction or even not adoption, for example, from farmers. From Pathways, in the different research activity in practice hubs, for example, they show that many innovative practice hubs are economically viable and competitive and offer outperforming different benchmarks like the Farm Accountancy Data Network. Here, a very important history is not about the farm size. That is very important. That means multiple transition pathways can work, and support should be directed to those areas where gaps still exist. In the case of the Meat Quality Project, this project highlights that profitability is not the whole history. For example, resilience differs by different pathways. In the case of extensive systems, often build value-based resilience through product quality and territorial identity. In the case of intensive systems, they often build scale, they build resilience through integration and bargaining power as well. So policy should support both in different ways. In the case of Intact, this project tried to quantify how intensification changed the value equation, particularly in the case of poultry. A fast-growing system, for example, increased the fillet yield, but quality risk rise. For example, lower protein content or water losses as well, creating some value leakage through downgrading and processing losses. In the case of slower growing systems, this can stabilize intrinsic quality, for example, and authentication tools can help for credible differentiation. Well, you can see this aspect in some way can be summarized in this European chicken commitment in terms of balancing quality, efficiency, and environmental sustainability as well. In the case of Code Refarm project, this project reminds us there is no one route to sustainability. There is a portfolio of transformation pathway. In this particular figure, you can see different quarters. For example, in Q1 is the low complexity route, in which we can adopt known solutions, for example, within today's roles. for example, upgrades and transparency, improving economic and environmental performance. In the case of the second quarter, the innovation is based on the value proposition without changing the ecosystem. So, for example, new welfare-oriented models are learning then create different ways in terms of the revenues, for example, an income stream. So, across these different projects, we can see some kind of logic, a more consistent logic, again, recalling this triangle I presented in the beginning of the presentation. So, for example, for margin and risk, target support where benchmarking still shows some gaps. So the other very important thing is don't assume the size is the fix. In the case of environment, give priority to nutrient efficiency and management capacity. And in the case of social license, we need to enable verified claims and harmonize the metrics to cut burden while we are improving the trust. So, finally, what in terms of policy actions, how policymakers can give priority to this result? Well, the offer basically is to combine evidence with verification and enabling conditions to move more farms into the win-win space by 2030, for example. So I want just to leave a question for the panel. So what combination of incentives and credible verification will deliver sustainability while keeping production competitive in Europe? Thank you so much.